All right, folks, here today we have a returning guest. I interviewed him earlier on in the season. He took the league by storm this year, fighting anybody and everybody. That is none other than Nico Blachman. Nico, how you doing today, bud?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back on. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. Now we've been bullshitting here for quite a bit. I was waiting for the wife to come home. As everybody knows, the Gates the puppy is not what you'd call too friendly during the podcast. Likes to chew the cords and everything like that. So I had to wait a little bit, but I appreciate you, sitting tight for me. Um, but we'll kind of get into it. So those who have listened before, I interviewed Nico at the very beginning of the season. I think it was just after your first fight with Ortobody, who of course Chris Ortobody was last week's guest on the show. And we were going to we planned it. We were going to do a season in review after the year. So here we are, your first year pro. Well, first off, how'd you like playing in the coast this year?
I loved it. I loved it. It was my goal. My goal was to play in the coast this year. So I'm really happy that I was able to accomplish that goal, and couldn't be happier. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, well, you actually talk about making a big splash. You tied the league and the fight totals for the highest amount of fights. I think it was you and Josh Thrower were both there with 11. Of course, as everybody knows, the ECHL and their odd 10 fight rule kind of inhibit guys once they get up to a certain point in fights. But you managed to squeak another one out there, maybe get a little bit of a suspension in there, but it's all part of the role. How do you feel you did overall for your first year in terms of fighting?
I think I did well. I think for me, I believe the goal is always to get better. Every day get better, like no matter what you do. So this season, fighting was basically my whole role, and I think I got better as the season went on, which is what I'm really happy about. I think if you can get better at what you do, then you should be really happy.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It seemed like and I think I mentioned this before, it was like after your first four fights, well, it didn't help that you were fighting like top dogs in the league, man. You're going, Travis Howe, Josh Thrower, guys like that. So I mean, talk about diving into the deep end. These guys are really established in the role and kind of know what they're doing. They've been around the block a couple of times, and it was a little bit different coming out swinging compared to maybe guys you fought in the queue.
No, it wasn't. It was very similar. For me, it was something about I truly believe that I could fight any heavyweight in any league, like ECHL, AHL, NHL, LNAH, whatever it may be. And I knew that nobody else believed that, because if you look at me, like, you shouldn't believe it. But so for me, it was really just out to prove to people that I can do this at this level. So that's why I dove into the deep end, like the heavyweights. Like, I don't get excitement out of fighting a guy that's my size or smaller than me. Like, the excitement is there for those big guys, the guys that have a name, I want to be on their fight card, and I want to do well against those guys, and I want to let them know I'm coming back too if I don't do well, or even if I do well. So for me, it was I wanted to prove that I could go with these guys, with the top dogs, and I think I did do that. Also, it was my goal to, like I said earlier, get better and not lose fights. So I think at the beginning, like you said, a lot of them didn't go my way. And then as the season went on, I got to see video, what I did wrong, what I could do better, what I could do for certain guys. And then also your videos of the other guys that are fighting that I'm going to play against helped me, because I got to see their tendencies and what they like to do. And I could capitalize on that.
Right on. I love to hear that guys actually like appreciate the videos, and like players themselves actually sit back and kind of watch them, because you're able to do kind of homework, and I guess it's a little bit easily more accessible on YouTube than having to kind of track down some game film, which I'm sure all your coaches have and stuff like that. But makes it easier just to go straight to the fight, hopefully. But your first fight was versus Chris Ortobody, which we covered that, and Ortobody talked about it too, and he couldn't believe your resilience of you kind of getting back up after he hit you with the good one there. And he said you're known to maybe beak some guys here and there, and maybe get in their heads a little bit in the locker room. Is that something you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, that's I mean, we were talking about that a little bit before we hopped on. That's kind of why I was able to fight so many guys, to be honest. I didn't average many minutes. I averaged, I think, under 2 minutes, or like around 2 minutes of ice time per night. So I wouldn't have fought me if I was on the other team, unless I was playing the same amount of minutes. But you know what I mean? Like, you got to be kind of stupid to fight me, or you got to be very mad at me to fight me. So that's what I tried to do. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to play many minutes, and I knew that my role was to fight. And I was out to prove to people that I can fight these big dogs. Now it was about how do I get these big dogs to fight me? Because I remember my first regular season game was actually 2 seasons ago. I played one game, and it was against Jacksonville. I tried to fight Travis Howe, and he was kind of like, "Who are you?" And I was giving it to him, but he didn't want to fight me. So then I was kind of like, how I got to make sure guys are fighting me now. I can't take no, like, you know. So that's when I established my pregame routine, where I just give it to everyone and anyone that I see on the other team about everything and anything, you know, just ruthless stuff, and just because I needed them to be really, really mad at me, so that when I do get a shift, whenever it may be, they were fucking really out to get me. So yeah, no, I love it too. I think it fires me up. Like when I start chirping guys, it fires me up because they give it back and blah blah blah, etc. It's part of the job that I really enjoy, and I think it's something about uh, the side of mental toughness that I like to kind of see how mentally weak or mentally tough my the people that I'm playing against are. I find it kind of funny. I find it like sometimes you'll say something to someone and they'll snap. And then I'll be thinking in my head, like, wow, like he's mentally weak, you know? And then I'll tell him that. I'll be like, you're mentally, you know, and I'll
Yeah.
tell him that. But it's I don't know. For me, it's like I like to read a lot, and I consider myself like a person that studies stoicism, like kind of philosophy. And I find like everything gets back to that. Like I'm always learning from things from other guys. Like when I'm chirping a guy, I'm learning how they react. So like I never react that way. Like when guys chirp me, I try to just as if I didn't hear it, you know, because if it doesn't get to you, like he doesn't, as long as he doesn't feel like he's getting to you, then he doesn't feel like he's doing his job. But like, if you let me know I'm getting to you, and you let me know basically, hey, good job, you're doing your job, then I'm gonna fucking keep coming at you. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, no, I love that shit.
Yeah, it's almost like blood in the water with a bunch of sharks. Once you know it kind of gets to them, you just keep poking at it and poking at it, and they're gonna snap and really get under their skin. Um, well, before we kind of dive more in, you kind of brought up your you kind of your pregame routine. You are actually wearing a shirt that says Blachman's pregame skate tracker. I know you wanted to give a couple shout outs before
Yeah, I wanted
before
to
we
give a
get
shout
going.
out to Big Korean Joe out in South Carolina. He was a Stingrays fan, and he made me this shirt, Blatchman pregame warm up, or what does it say?
Skate
Pregame
tracker.
sleep tracker.
Yeah.
And it's just the red line warm up. And he made this shirt for me. I know you got one. He gave them to a couple people, and I just want to say I really appreciate that, because for a fan to not only take the time but invest money into making a shirt like this, like about me and for me, and I appreciate it so much. So I wanted to give Big Korean Joe a shout out. Those people over there in South Carolina, um, like they have some serious fans over there, and I really appreciated all of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you wanted to give another shout out. So you have a buddy who actually started almost like it, it dehydrates you, but it hydrates you at the same time. And it's a drink called Vodkite. And tell us a little bit more about that real quick.
So this drink, it's called Vodkite. It's vodka with electrolytes made with premium coconut water. So my buddy started this company. He's a former hockey player, and me and some friends down here started a hockey league 2 years ago called the SoFlo 3v3 Hockey League. We have basically all the best guys that grew up in Florida that train in Florida too. And there's like a lot of NHL guys in the league now. So Vodkite, they sponsored the league, and they're helping us out big time. So I wanted to give them a shout out. It's also an unreal drink for those that like to drink and get after it. Vodka and electrolytes tastes like a vodka Gatorade. So yeah, I just wanted to give that shout out. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, I really curious to see how that tastes. That's a very unique drink. I've heard of vodka and Gatorade before, but I kind of really put the two together. So that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'll get one to you.
Yeah, that'd be great, dude.
Sure.
So, you actually end up in South Carolina, and I mean, like I said, you dove right into the deep end, man. You go straight for Josh Thrower, Kyle Marino, and Travis Howe off the rip, man. Take us through that Thrower fight.
Thrower fight was good. I like those guys. I respect them. They fight heavies. They are heavies. I think it was a good fight. He, before the fight, was telling me, if you switch to your left, I'm gonna catch you, stuff like that, because he had definitely watched the fight before. So then, honestly, I was a little hesitant to switch to my left, but mid-fight, I was like, "Fuck this guy," and I switched to my left. And no, it was a good fight. It was a really good fight. I think that one ended. I just kind of dragged him down, but no, he's a tough kid. It was a good fight. I would have loved to fight him again, but I don't know, never happened.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a huge fan of both Josh and Dalton Thrower. They were
What a
definitely on my
sick
radar.
last name too, to be doing this.
Oh yeah, that's what people were saying. Like anytime their fights come up, they're like, "Oh, what's the perfect name for a fighter?" And it's like, it really is, man. Yeah, before I really got into the ECHL this year, I was going through all the not box scores, but checking PIM stats, everything. The Thrower brothers are definitely on my radar, so I became a huge fan of the Thrower bros this season. Another guy you fought, and I was wishing we would see more of him, but he got called up to the AHL a lot this season. But that was Kyle Marino, and you fought him. I think you guys were out in Idaho for that one.
Yeah, we were in Idaho. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was it fighting him, man?
That was awesome for me, because getting him to fight me was kind of it shocked me a little bit, because he plays a lot of minutes. He was on their second line, I think. He plays power play. He scored like 2 goals. But what happened was, I was chirping him all warm up like I always do, and during the game from the bench, etc. And then when he was out there, I was able to lay a big hit. So then he challenged me, and obviously I said, "That's fine, bro." So it was a good fight. Like him, I would have loved to fight him again too, because like, if I had known, like, I watched all his fights now, he's a very active fighter right off the start, and which is fine. I was able to switch, and I think I got a couple in, but I think he got the upper hand there. But he's very active in the beginning. He's a strong kid, but he's a straight righty. I don't think I've seen him switch to his left. So I don't know. For me, it's like, when I fight straight righties, like, no matter how much power you have, I feel like I have an advantage over you, because I could switch. But yeah, he definitely got the upper hand on that one. But he's a big boy, and he's a tough kid, and he's had great fights in the AHL as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and that fight, it looked like you guys were kind of talking back and forth in the penalty box, and kind of like, good fight or whatever. I think you might have gave him a thumbs up or like a head nod or something like that. But yeah, I like Marino. I wouldn't say I know too much of him, but looking at his stuff this year, I definitely went back and watched his AHL stuff, and I think actually him and Neuber fought in the AHL, which is kind of cool.
I think he's a great player as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he can bring a lot to a team, because he's a tough kid, and he also plays big minutes. So I think he's a good player.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to this guy. And I was fortunate enough to see the wars he had with Kyle Neuber this year. Of course, they went 4 rounds, and it was like, that might as well have been 10 rounds with how long the fights are. But you actually had a pregame scuffle that went viral. Spit and Chicklets covered it. A bunch of other pages. That's one of my most popular videos on the YouTube channel. And I think after I'd have to go back and check, but I know at one point, after adding up the views and totals, I mean, it was at like 4.2 million views, which is fucking insane for an East Coast League video. And you kind of got into it with warm-ups with Travis Howe. What kind of brought that on?
So that's actually really funny, because before this game, I had fought him the last time we played, and he beat me. It was my worst fight of the year for sure. But before this game, I had a talk with the president and the coaches in South Carolina, and they asked me, they said, "Nico, please, no warm-up shenanigans. Like, just shoot a couple pucks, like, warm up your body and get off." Like, so I was like, okay, yeah, no problem, if that's what you guys want me to do. So I was like, okay, no warm-up shenanigans. So I was like kind of further from the red line than I usually am, but like still kind of there, whatever. And then he starts stretching like really close, like on the red line. And I'm like, what the fuck, you know, like the coaches just told me not to do anything. So he's like kind of like very close to the red line, right? And then he gets on the red line. So then I kind of start skating by, taking like fake slap shots, skating by, whatever. And then that's when he like goes all the way over. So then I go to like to get a puck to shoot it at him. And then I go to shoot the first puck and it hits a guy on my team, like his stick. And I'm like, fuck. So I go to get another puck, or then I like spear him or something, skate by, go to get another puck, like try to shoot it. And like I go to shoot like head high, it stays on the ice. Like after my blade was broken. And that was like the biggest chirp that I got online, is like, if you're gonna shoot a puck at a guy, like whatever. So yeah, that was tough. But then I literally at one point, like I'm just go up there. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get out of here. Like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, dude, you want to fight right now? Like, it's a 20-game sussy. Like, you want to go right now? You can't just wait till the puck drops. And he's just like, you're a fucking bitch, blah blah. And I was like, dude, I'll go you again. Like on the ice, like puck drops, I'll go you again. He's like, oh, you're not worth it. I'm like, then why the fuck are you doing this? Like, get on your side then, you know? And then like friend came over and everyone came over and I was just like, dude, are we doing this? Like, like, what are you doing? Are we doing this? Like, and in the back of my head is like the coaches and the president, like they're gonna kill me, you know? And so whatever, a couple, like, then at one point I just like punched him and then he punched me back and like he was bleeding and I was chirping him about it, whatever. And then I go straight into the coach's room after. I'm like, coach, I swear to God, it wasn't me. Like, like, he's like, what happened? I was like, it wasn't me. Like, he was on the ride. He's like, okay, don't worry about it, blah, 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 whatever. And then during the game, like, I tried to fight him, but he didn't want to fight. I don't know. It was super weird. I never seen anything like it. Like, for me, like, if I knew it was gonna go viral like this, like, maybe I would have just dropped my gloves or something, because I feel like I looked a bit soft. But at the same time, it's like, we just fought the game before. Like, I'm down to fight him again in the game. It's like, what, like, I'm all for craziness, but like at the same time, like that's a bit of a clown show, even for my standards. So I was just like, man, this is, I don't know. I was just kind of like, what the fuck the whole time, you know, like, what are you doing?
Oh yeah. Well, I want to give a shout out to Harry Roundtree. I'll always mention him anytime I bring this clip up, because he was the one who sent that to me and allowed me to post it to YouTube. So I guess everybody could thank Harry Roundtree for recording that video for us. And I had no clue it was going to get that big at all. I posted on Twitter and it fucking took off. And then it's like, I think Bizanet retweeted it. And then the Spittin' Chicklets got on it. I was like, holy shit. And I like looked the next day and it was like 700,000 views. I was like, that's fucking nuts. But well,
And
you
the
mentioned
worst part was that people were like, did these guys fight? And someone's like, yeah. And then they showed the video, but it was before. Yeah. And it was such a bad fight for me. So it was tough. But yeah, I don't know why he didn't want to go again. He beat me, so it's like, why not? And that's what I was saying, is like, dude, why not dummy me again? Like, if you're so confident. So I don't know what goes through guys' minds like that. Like, if for example, like my best fight, like Leonard, if he would have wanted to go me again, I would have been like, dude, of course. Like, that's a fucking free win for me. So I don't know. I don't know what was going through his head then. I have no idea. I would never do that.
Well, you mentioned it because I had people were like, why don't they just drop the fucking gloves? And I said, well, I guarantee there's a suspension already coming from this, which I think you both ended up getting 2 games for it. And you mentioned it. So if you start a fight in pregame, is it 20 games in the coast?
No, I just said that's what I assumed. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's something big like that for sure. We got 2 games for that, and it was the most. Yeah, we got 2 games for that. I mean, 2 games is not bad. I had like 16 this past year, so a lot of suspensions, but it is what it is. Like that one was just ridiculous. Obviously, I hated that suspension. It was super unnecessary. That whole thing was unnecessary, but like you said, it got a lot of views, so whatever.
I think that was the one I broke the news to you. Like, cause I, of course, at the end of the day, after work and I'm scrolling through, I'll look at like ECHL news and like roster updates and or what's it called, transactions. And I was like, oh, fun. I think I texted you. I was like, fucking A, they gave you 2 games for that. You're like, wait a minute, I got suspended. And I got fucking, you didn't even know you got suspended. I sat there, I let the cat out of the bag for you. That was funny.
Yeah,
Um,
I had no idea. I didn't think I was getting suspended, but I guess like that's like a common trend because like there was another thing that I didn't think I was getting suspended and I ended up getting like 6 games. So yeah, I don't know. Like I guess I'm not the guy to ask if I'm suspended or not. But to the funny thing about that suspension is like we had a game against Orlando right after, and I was allowed to play. I just wasn't allowed to play the 2 games against Jacksonville. And I
right.
ended up getting my first assist in that game, my only point of the year in that game. So I was grateful that they let me play that game.
Yeah, for sure. So with you brought up suspensions, and this is kind of a touchy situation that happened this year. But your biggest suspension came from when you hopped off the bench coming to defense of Jordan Subban on your team, with the whole Panetta thing. What was kind of I guess like take us through that situation there.
For me, I just saw like a scrum, whatever, like always, and then I don't know, Subi was trying to go this guy, and then when I saw that, what his gesture, it really like for me, I saw it and I didn't need to hear anyone or say anything. In my head, I was like, oh, that was racist. And I just jumped off the bench and I fed the guy. It was there's a lot to it too. Like 2 days before that happened, one of my best friends, Boko Imama, um, also was someone did a racist gesture to him two days prior to this. So with that in my mind, and then I saw it, and I really, my judgment to this day, like I was like, that was racist. So yeah, I don't know. That's that for me. Like I jumped off the bench and I did what I thought was right. And yeah, I got a 6 game suspension. Yeah, people's opinions since then have changed. Like my opinion won't change on the moment from when I saw it. I don't think like that means that that kid's a terrible kid. Maybe it was just an idiotic moment at the time. But for me, that shit's unacceptable. And if I can do something about it, then I'm gonna do something about it every time I see that stuff. So I mean, yeah, it was just like an in the moment thing. I saw it, I interpreted it that way, and I did what I thought I had to do. It was really just instinctual. It was all instinctual. And yeah, no, wouldn't change a thing. But yeah, it was all instinctual. It was a crazy moment. It was crazy. A lot of emotions. Emotions were high. But yeah, that's something for me that if I can do something about it, I don't let that slide. So I mean, whatever, like I would never want something like that to happen to me. Like I said too, like I had a friend that it happened to him the day before or 2 days prior, and I know how it affects people. It really hurts. It really hurts people when you do shit like that. Like when you do things like that, you really, really, really strike people like right in the heart. And for me, it was like I saw my really good friend and teammate. Um, I saw that happen to him, and I thought it was unacceptable. So yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
No, it's I get it, man. And I did an episode covering it and kind of just I'm not going to sit here and give my stance on it because if I say one thing, people are going to be mad at me. If I say the other thing, people are going to be mad at me. I basically just did a neutral ground and analyzed the whole situation. And like I said, at the end of the day, was it a racial gesture? Possibly, we won't know. But if it was, he had everything he had coming to, and I wish he gave him another black eye because I had to give a laugh when he was reading off the apology letter or the statement, and he's reading it off, and he got the black eye going there. It's like, yeah, that's courtesy of Nico Blachman there. But I mean, either way, I think it's great. Yeah, you came off the bench, but who gives a shit? You're coming to the defense of your teammate. And you can't ask for much more on a hockey team. for a guy to do that, because you don't see that much today. I think the last time anybody in the NHL came off the bench for a fight was when like Goddard came off to defend the goalie when it was like the whole Pittsburgh and New York Islander brawl going on. So it it is what it is, and I guess that's all we'll really say about it. But
Yeah, but I'm glad you asked that, just because I wanted to get it out there that like for me, like from what I saw and how I reacted, like that's what I thought at the time. So there's a lot of people were giving Subi shit for like, hey, you interpreted it that way, it's your fault. Like, nah, he's not the only one that interpreted it that way. So I just want to back him up there.
well, and what I said about it too was like, if he interpreted that way, okay, it sucks, but I'm sure he's probably had to deal with that shit his entire life too, because people are just racist assholes. So you can't blame him for being quick on the trigger. If it was a tough man gesture, it did look like, a racial gesture at the same time as well. So you can't really be mad at him for flipping the switch and just getting pissed off, because he's probably had to deal with that shit his whole life. And he's probably just thinking, here we go, another fucking asshole. And, they go after it. So, like I said, if it was a racial gesture, I wish he'd get filled the fuck in even more. So,
Yeah, and the truth is, like, I think, I know what I saw, he knows what he saw, that guy knows what he did. At the end of the day, like, the only one that will really know deep down is the kid that did it. So, I hope it wasn't, I hope it wasn't, and I hope it was a misinterpretation by everyone. But that's how I interpreted it at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't blame, like you said, I don't blame you. And again, like you said, tensions were already high with Boko Imama getting the gesture 2 days prior, which I didn't even know that happened until somebody posted. It's like, this is two gestures in like, a week's time span. I was like, holy shit, I didn't even know that went on. So like you said, tensions were already high, but yeah, like you said, hopefully he you know, it wasn't racist, but I guess like you said, at the end of the day, we won't know. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll leave it at that. But moving on, you mentioned it earlier, but take us through that fight with Travis Howe. You said that was one of your worst ones of the year, and for one, I don't give a shit if a guy wins or loses a fight. At the end of the day, if you have the balls to drop the gloves and throw down in front of fans, you got all my respect in the world. Whatever that means, as a couch jockey sitting here in North Carolina, watching games and going through fight clips. But at the same time, uh sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, and kind of take us through that fight that you had with Travis Howe.
Yeah, so that fight, I watched his clips and stuff. I was ready to go. I had visualized it with my helmet on, so I was going here, ready to let him punch the back of my helmet, hurt his hand a little bit, switch, hopefully catch him. And then right before, like, so we drop our gloves, and right before we get close, he takes his helmet off. So then I'm like, oh, and then I take my helmet off. But then I fought the same fight that I was like going in that I planned to fight. So instead of getting those to the back of the helmet, I got them to the back of the head, and it hurts a lot more. So I felt those like I got a hammer to the back of the head, and then I get down, I'm like, oosh. And I go to get back up, and I just feel another hammer, boom, the back of my head. And then I went down, and when I went to get back up, then the refs had already separated. But yeah, it was not a good fight for me, but I wish I could have fought him again, because like I said to you before the pod, like if I could have fought him again, I would have done things differently, and I would have done a lot better for sure. But it is what it is. That he's a tough kid. Like, he's been doing this for a while in this league, and he fights all the heavies, and he is a heavy. He's like probably 240. So he's a big boy, and yeah, I'll eat that loss.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I did a poll in, I think it was one of the ECHL groups and Instagram and YouTube. And I said, who do you think is the league heavyweight? And, but the people's champ was Travis Howe. Everybody voted him as the top dog in the league. So,
but I'll go him again if he's allowed back in the league next year. I'll definitely go him again. I'll get my rematch a couple times.
Yeah, we'll have to see I'm curious to see what happens. And I'm hoping you get that rematch with Travis Howe there. And we'll see. I'd like to see how you approach it, and the different mentality you have going into that fight. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Travis Howe. So the next fight you actually had, I was there for that. You could hear me drunk or I don't know, was I drunk? Maybe I was. I don't know. For whatever reason, most of the time in the Everblades games, I think I've mentioned it before. Um, the only time, or I shouldn't say the only time, but like every time they'd fight, I'd always be like half in the bag pre-gaming with Tommy out in the fucking parking lot. So I'm already at that point going in, I'm like 12 beers deep. And then knowing Tommy, we always got to go up to Breakaways, a little sports pub at the Everblades Arena. Tommy's big on his tequila, so we're doing tequila shots and shit. But oh yeah, just being fucking stupid. But you actually fought Kyle Neuber, and you were actually roommates with him at the beginning of the season when you were with Florida. How was it fighting Kyle?
He's a beauty, that guy. He's an awesome guy. He's a great fighter. He's a vet. For me, it was like when I played against the Everblades, I didn't want to, like, the way I chirp is very ruthless, and I didn't want to do that to those guys. So I really just only chirped, like, there was two guys at that time. I don't even remember their names. There was two guys that were new guys. So I was just giving it to them. And yeah, I think the game was getting chippy. And at one point, like, I went to the bench, I started giving it to those guys, and Neuber came over or something, and like I was like, should we just go to calm it down? And he's like, I think we have to. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then off the draw, it was like, and when we drop our mitts, I heard something after he told me. He said, I love you, kid, when he dropped his mitts. I didn't hear it. I was like, what did you say? Because when we dropped our mitts, he said something. I'm like, what? And I didn't hear you. And then we fought, whatever. And then, he beat me. It was whatever, but he beat me. And then he's just like, are you good? I'm like, yeah. And then that was the end of it. And it was all good. It was all in good spirits. Like, he's my boy. He's still one of my friends. And like, I go back to the Everblades now and support them in their Kelly Cup run. Game 3 tonight. Let's go Blades. And yeah, I always go support them and stuff because it's an hour and a half away. And I always hang out with Noobs. He's an awesome guy. He's a great guy to chat with too. He's an interesting cat.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to get him on the podcast after the season ends. I wish like hell they'd put him in for the playoffs, but I know it's like, I think like we got going. The Everblades are just a fucking stacked roster, man. So it's like, who do you take out for Neuber? So it's tough. But yeah, I remember that fight. Well, my wife was like freaking out. She's like, well, I don't know who to cheer for it because we've been fans of you before when you were with Florida. And she's like, I can't do it. It's like watching my kids fight. I'm like, well, Neuber's older than us. What are you talking about? And so she's like, I don't know who to cheer for. And I was like, fuck, I don't really know who to cheer for. I was like, they're just gonna fucking they're going though, because I think Perkovich had got into it with somebody off the draw right before that. And then yeah, it was Holmstrom. And then once you two lined up next to each other, and for whatever reason, it's like they couldn't get the time right at the arena, and so it was like being delayed. And like you and Noobs are both doing the fucking glove wiggle. I'm like, oh fuck, they're going, and oh, of course, gloves drop, we're going ape shit. But yeah, that was a great fight, and like Neuber beat you, but I don't think by much. It was a slight edge. It wasn't like a beat down or anything like that. But it was a great fight, and I love that you were still giving it to the crowd afterwards, going down the tunnel because I think you had a cut like right behind your head or whatever. And I think Neuber went off too, or it might have been at the end of the period.
It was his hands. His hands.
That's what it was. That's what it was. And yeah, so you're still giving it to the crowd, but what a great fight that was. And that was awesome to see live. And it was funny because my father-in-law they were going to come down for a game. And actually it was your fight with Ortabody is the one we got to see live when I brought the father-in-law down. And they had to change the schedule. I said, if there's a game you want to go to, I said, Nico's fucking playing this game. I guarantee you some shit's going to happen. You got to come to this one. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to come down. And then like a week before they changed it, and they came down when Florida played Orlando, and Orlando doesn't really have that kind of established heavyweight. They got Alexi, but I don't know if I'd put him in the same category as Neuber, but Alexi's a tough motherfucker too. Dude's been doing it for years. He even played a few games in the NHL, but yeah, he was like, man, I should have came down for that fight. I could have seen Nico, because it was like he didn't know the Everblades roster, obviously, but he knew your name because I was hyping you up the entire time. So he missed out on that one. But yeah, that was a solid fight. And I love you, kid. That was fun. That's fucking funny. That was funny.
Yeah, funny. He's a good dude. Good dude.
Well, I gotta say, man, and this was, I think, almost like a turning point for you, because this is when you really ramped it up, and I think this is when you really kind of found your stride, and you started fighting guys and doing a lot better. Your next fight actually was versus Steve Leonard, and that was a really good one at center ice. I think you were actually in South Carolina. I think it was like EMT night or first responder night or something like that. You had like the specialty jersey, but take us through that fight with Leonard there.
Yeah, best fight of my career. He wanted to fight me. I knew that I mean, I look at him, he's smaller than me. I was like, no problem. He was also chirping a lot, which is why it kind of got me excited for the fight. And yeah, I don't know. He was chirping like crazy, chirping everyone. And just like, I didn't think he was actually going to fight me. I really thought he was going to back out. So, but off the draw, I was like, we're going. And he said, yeah. We dropped our mitts. And like, for me, like after fighting those guys, like you said, like Neuber, Howe, all these guys, like fighting a guy like this was like, I was just super comfortable. And yeah, I think it was, yeah, it was my best fight. I mean, I started righty, I landed two, and I felt really confident. And then when I switched, he just kind of hang on with both his arms. So I knew he wasn't throwing, and then I was just lefty going. And yeah, seemed like I landed everything in that fight. Seemed like everything went well. It was just one of those where everything clicks for you. And yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, once you had that left hand going, it was like almost like the lawnmower, it's like nothing stopping it. And it was just, I was like, holy shit. Cause I think Brian had messaged me. Brian's another Everblades fan. He's like, holy shit, did you just see Nico's fight? And we were getting ready to go somewhere. I think we might have been going to an Everblades game or something, or out to dinner. And I was like, and my wife and I were about to leave. I'm like, hold on, I got to go to Flow Sports real quick. And I like rewinded and I was like, holy shit, he beat the fucking doors off him. So that was a great fight for sure. Um, you know, so after that, well, after that was actually, I think when the whole Panetta thing went down, but the next fight you had, which I actually didn't see that they credited you with a fight versus him, but you ended up going Kyle Rhodes, and then you ended up going Noah Corson in the same game there. But going with Noah Corson is used loosely here, but you ended up kind of just giving him a quick right to the face as the linesmen were kind of stepping in, or he was beaking you while you were going to the box. But take us through that there out in Norfolk. Or no, that was in South Carolina, excuse me.
It was in South Carolina. It was against Norfolk. There was a huge hit, and I didn't see the hit. I was on the bench. I just heard a huge thing, and I looked down, and one of our good players is like hurting on the ice. So I start yelling for someone to come off, and then as I'm yelling, like someone change. Then I'm yelling down the bench at the same time, like, who was it? And then I'm yelling, someone fucking change. And then I'm yelling, who was it? And finally someone changes, and I didn't hear like who it was. So I just went up to the first guy I seen, and it was Rhodes, and I cross-checked him, and he dropped his mitts. So then I was like, oh, it was him. So I dropped my mitts and I fought him, and I did well. And then yeah, just go to their bench, point, whatever. And Corson just comes like, you think you're tough? And then I'm like, yeah. I grab him, and I think I swung one, and then the ref's like, hey. And then he stayed there, and he said again, like, you think you're tough or something like that. And then I just threw an uppercut, and I caught him really good, and then I got slashed and whatever. It was crazy. But that's the game that I thought like, oh, someone texted me, how many games do you get? And I said, I don't think I'm getting any, or maybe one. And I got 6. So
Yeah, that one was a bit. I thought that was excessive, because I was like, man, well, Corson's just doing his job to be a pest, because that's what he's out there to do. And I love Noah Corson because he's a fucking asshole. And I mentioned that with
and me too, by
Collins.
the way, me too. I'm a fan of Corson's game. I think he does a great job at what he does. He gets under people's skins. He's small, but he'll go anyone. I fought him like 4 times in junior. Yeah, I think he's a good player. Really, he's really effective.
Yeah, for sure. And I was like, man, he's going up
Got to
to.
stay away. He's got to stay away from my right, though.
Yeah, I was like, man, he's going up to Nico right after a fight. I was like, Nico's already jacked to the gills because he just won versus Rhodes. And I was like, once I saw the clip, I was like, well, I mean, I don't think he was going up to, or he, like I said in one of the comments, I was like, well, I don't think Nico's there to play patty cake with Coruscant, so he kind of had it coming, I guess. But you know,
I mean, at that point, with the amount of adrenaline that you have, like,
right.
yeah, that's happening every time.
For sure. Well, the last fight you had this season was against the Everblades, and it was against Russell Jordan, who is another guy who's not shy from dropping the gloves. He had I think 5 or 6 fights at least this year for the Everblades before he ended up going to Iowa, and that's where he fought Collins. But during that fight, you actually sat there, and I haven't seen something like this since like John Morasti or some shit, man, where mid-fight you sat there and you pointed at the Everblades bench. Take us through that fight with Russell Jordan, man.
So for me, I loved playing for the Everblades, and it was a big hit when I ended up getting released there, and then I got picked up from by South Carolina, and everything was great. But I don't know, I thought I had mixed feelings about them kind of like getting rid of me and then picking up Russell Jordan, because it was like, well, why'd you get rid of me type of thing. I don't know. It was an ego thing, you can never let your ego get in the way. But I kind of had that little ego thing in the back of my head where I felt like they got this guy to replace me and they thought that he could do better than me type of thing. And I wanted to show that I disagree. So in the warm up, I remember like I was chirping him, and he had scored the game before, and I saw the goal, and it was like a rebound goal. So I said something like, "You think you're too good to talk to me because you got a shitty goal, etc." And I remember one of the coaches said something like, "He'll go you if you get out there, and if you get on the ice." And I said something like, "If you ever played me as much as you play this guy now, like I'd be a point per game," or something. So we were really like chirping in the warm up and stuff, but he was kind of like, So I didn't think he was gonna go, but I was really giving it to him in the game, and finally he said, "Yeah, let's go." And I don't know why I let it get to me so much that I thought that they got him to replace me, but it was just like in my head in the moment while I was fighting. So as I was fighting him, I was kind of winning the fight, and he had punched me a couple of times, and I didn't think they were as strong as they were gonna be. So I was like, I can eat some to fucking do this. So I remember pointing at them and saying like, "This is what you got now. This is what you got now." And then when I finished the fight, it was just all emotion, like I love those guys. I love all the players on the team, and I love the coaches. But I was just remember pointing at them and screaming like, "That's what you got now. Ha." Like very, very emotional. It was probably like my most emotional fight of the year, just because for me, I was just out to prove people this year that like I can do things that they think that I can't. And it was one of those things where I felt really loved with the Everblades, but I also feel like at the end of the day, there's a reason why they let me go. And it's maybe because of some doubt that I can do this. And I wanted to make sure that I got my message across that not only can I do this, but I can do this to the guys that you try to replace me with, even. So it was just something like that. Like I took it kind of personal, where it was like when I got released, I was like, I understand Neuber's your guy, and then they got this guy, and I was just kind of like, I don't love the move. So I wanted to really let them know. And I fucking love those guys though. Like I think they're great coaches, and I love the guys on the team there too. It was nothing like, it was just me letting my ego get to me. But it ended up being a pretty funny clip as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, I haven't seen anything like that since like John Morasti days, or like even like I think it was like the LNH when they would used to do that shit circa like 2005. So no, that was a really, really cool clip to see. And yeah, I think you got the better of Jordan in that fight, and then you go to the box and you're flexing and still talking to the bench. It was a fun time. But so that kind of wraps up your year in terms of fighting, man. You actually, like I said, you were tied as the league leader. What are your plans in the off season this year?
Get better, get better. So my official off season started about 10 days ago, which means locked in. I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. I do my whole morning routine and get better every day, get better every day. That's my plan. Right now, I'm really working on my game. I'm really working on my skating. I have a skating coach now, which I've never had, working on my edges. And I'm trying to build my legs, get my legs stronger, build speed, and just try to become a more effective player so that I can be a double threat. You know, I wanna build my game, become a better player, and be effective, but also be able to fight when I need to or when I want to. You know, so for me, like the fighting thing, like I feel like it's just a natural passion where I love it. I'll fight anyone, and I want to win. I want to get better at fighting, but at the end of the day, like uh, I find that's easier for me. So I really want to just work on my game and try to become a better player as much as possible. I mean, I have 5 months now, so 5 months is a lot of time to really improve and work on my game. So I'm really excited. I mean, I already got the ball rolling. I'm skating 4 times a week right now, which is kind of unheard of being 5 months away from camp, but I fucking love this game. I want to get better. I want to try to make a real impact next year. Like this season, you know, my goal was to play in the league. Like next season, like my goal is to really play in the league. I mean, you know what I mean? So this season it was I got to make a little name for myself by fighting or whatever. And now hopefully I can create an opportunity for myself where I can get the coaches to trust me and trust my game enough to where I can play in more situations. That's really it. It's just about finding a way to get better every day and have a better season next season, and then just continue that role. And I think if I can manage to do that, fucking exponential growth, baby. Like if you can grow every year and get better every year, then eventually it'll be time to move up. And that's obviously the goal for everyone. And that's obviously my goal. So for me, it's just right now working on my game, becoming a better skater, edges and all that, and being able to go to camp and prove to the coaches of the team that I'm trying out for or signed with that I'm a player and I can play.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's a good mindset to have. And like you said, you got your feet wet with the fighting, but now it's time to kind of grind it out a bit and start get you add more value to yourself doing that too. Because when you have a guy like you look at like a Tom Wilson in the NHL, that's a fucking unicorn, man. A guy who can like sit there and put 20 in a year and fight at the same time. It's like fuck that every team would want that on their team, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I even look at a guy in our league, like we talked about him, it's Noah Corson. And
Yeah.
I mean, he put up a ton of numbers this year. He played a lot of minutes and he did his thing. Um, for me, it's like, I mean, I'm not that little and stuff, but like if I can do the things, if I can put up numbers like that and play like that and be the guy that fights too, it's like phew, that's fucking incredible, you know? So I mean, that's why I respect the guy. I think his role is awesome. I think he's got an awesome role and I think he plays it really well. So for me, it's like I love my role. I love the role that I did this year. I just love to earn more ice time and earn more trust. Not obviously I don't expect it to be given to me. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, before I let you get going, man, I appreciate you taking the time, by the way. So you brought it up that you actually started a hockey league down there in South Florida. Kind of take us through that league, man. What's the name of the game? What's it all about?
SoFlo 3v3 league. So when I was growing up in Florida, we had some good players. We never really skated together. So when I was like maybe 3 years ago, me and a couple of buddies were like, we got to start all skating together. Like we're all here. We all kind of had to have the same mindset of, I've always said guys that play hockey from Florida or even any state or place where hockey isn't the thing, I find those guys love the game more. Like they sacrifice more, they move away from home when they're young, they do a lot more And so the mindset is kind of there where we all just really want to get better. So we started skating together. We did these little 3v3 games. And then the next year we were like, let's do a league. And we made teams and everything. We would have drafts before every skate. And then the year after, which was last year, we made it official where we had like a real draft, real teams, and we had 5 teams. And it ended up being a huge turnout because we had the guys that are from Florida, which were like Brandon Duhaime, who plays in the NHL for Minnesota, and Andrew Peak for Columbus. And then we started to get guys that train in Florida, like the Svechnikovs and Arthur Kalia for LA. And then Anthony Duclair and Lomberg from the Panthers joined my team because they stay the summers here and they heard about it. So then the league kind of just blew up and became this powerhouse 3v3 league where it's like basically all NHL, AHL, ECHL, and D1 players. And there's around 7 guys per team that dress. And we do 4 games a day of 13 minutes. You play the same team 4 times. And we do a regular season of like 48 games. So it's like 12 times. And then we do an all-star game weekend in the middle and playoffs. And it's super legit, man. Like we have a schedule and everything. And we like I mentioned earlier, Vodkite invested money in it. So we're going to have a lot of social media. We're going to have little YouTube clips coming out, recapping the week after every week. It'll be really, really, really cool. We're doing some things also with like nonprofit organizations where we're getting some sick kids to come meet the guys, the big dogs that are in the league, obviously, and get things signed, etc. So, and we also created a prospects league where we get kids that are 08 to I think 14 to 18 years old, where we have those kids now. We made a little league for them, and they're going to be around the guys that play in the NHL and us, like the bigger dogs, and they're going to be able to like learn and be around us, which I think is going to be huge for them. So really, like the reason why we started it was just to be able to get better, like play with the best competition in Florida. Then it became something about just growing the game down here as well, while we get to do this sick league. And this will be the first year that it'll be really, really, really big because, like I mentioned, we've had this company, Vodkite, invest in it, and it's helped us a lot. So I'm really looking forward to this year with this league. I think it's awesome I think we get a little edge here in Florida because we have this league. It helps us stay in game shape. You know, there's hitting, there's fighting, there's everything. It's regular rules, you know, and it's hardcore hockey. So it's 3v3 on this 80-foot sheet of ice, and we just go at it, and it's unbelievable. We play, I'd say, 2 times a week. So then you only really need like 1 or 2 other skates a week just to stay on the ice. And then you get that game competition, which is things that other people don't get in the summer. So yeah, it's fucking unbelievable. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome, man. Sounds like you got a lot going on, a lot of good stuff happening down there. Fuck, I've played 3-on-3 in beer league, let alone fucking at a competitive level. I was gassed doing that shit. I couldn't imagine playing 3-on-3, all the time during a game for what'd you say, 14 minutes straight?
14 minutes, yeah. 13 minutes, 4 games of 13
That's what it was.
minutes. There's a ZAM in the middle, but it's a small rink, so the ZAM's quick, and it's a super hot rink because it's in Florida in the summer, you know. So
Right.
it's super hot in there, like it's insane. But the games are really gritty. They get really intense, and it's super cool to see because I think anyone that plays in the NHL is a competitive person. That's the only way you can get there. So it's cool to see these NHL guys like out there, like really getting mad and stuff, you know, when they get scored on, and it's just a 3v3 with all the boys. And it's awesome, man. It's a healthy competition that we've created here in South Florida. And I really believe that it's going to be a big thing in the future. It's a big thing now for us, honestly, because it helps us a ton. But yeah, we're just looking to grow the game down here and just stay in shape over the summer, really continue to get better all together.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, that sounds awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast again and talk some fights and let us get some insight on the Travis Howe pregame shenanigans, because I know a lot of people were asking about that in the comments, like, what is this whole thing going on about?
Yeah,
All that fun
you're
shit.
gonna have to ask him, because I have no clue what was going on there. You know,
Absolutely, man. Hopefully he comes on the podcast. We'll see down the line. I'd love to get him on. I've really enjoyed not only watching you, but guys like, you know, Neuber, Howe, Collins, all these guys, and it's been awesome to have you guys like yourself on the podcast to kind of give insight to, because before this, man, you were the first current hockey player I ever interviewed. I never really interviewed guys that were playing today, because I just didn't know about the ECHL. So it was all guys who retired. I mean, like, probably the latest dude I had was maybe like 2012. Something like that was when he retired. So it's been cool, and it's been a lot of fun getting into the ECHL this year. And you know, with guys like yourself making it fun to watch. So I appreciate that, man.
I'm honored, man. I'm honored to be the first one. Hopefully by the end of your podcasting career, I'll be the guest that comes on the most.
Yeah, for sure, man. I definitely we went on for almost probably like an hour before we even got going here. So just sitting here bullshitting, waiting for the wife to get home. So that was a good time, man. Anytime you want to come on, you just let me know and we'll fucking make it happen.
Fucking rights. Fucking rights. We'll get a couple episodes while I'm in the ECHL, a couple when I'm in the AHL, and then a couple when I'm in the NHL.
Yeah, I just got to make sure you don't big time me when you make it to the NHL. You're like, who the fuck is this dude? 5 for fighting. Get the fuck out of here.
No chance. I'm always the same guy.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate it, Nico. Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime, brother.
Have a good one.
See ya.